Islamist rebel forces in Syria took control of the country's capital city, Damascus, and announced the end of the brutal 5-decade-long rule of the Assad family. Now, the historic moment was a surprise to the international community and sent shockwaves throughout the Middle East and beyond. Now, what will it mean for the people in Syria and for that region? Join me now to discuss this and much more, Congressman Tim Burchett. He serves on 3 House committees, including the Foreign Affairs Committee. He represents the 2nd Congressional District of Tennessee. Congressman Burchett, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always great to see you.
Thanks for having me on, brother.
So the Assad family, that regime has been in power for most of your life and mine, so it's not hyperbole to say that the ousting of this dictator was a historic moment. What does it mean?
Well, it means a lot of things, really. It's the devil we know versus the devil we don't know. We do know that ISIS played a major part in this. They're releasing a lot of the ISIS fighters that were being held. He was holding them in prisons. Israel, of course, is fighting Hezbollah. Russia is fighting Ukraine. A lot of these folks are weakened right now. They're so weak, Russia couldn't do anything about it. And of course, Assad's over there in Russia right now. We think his family is. So there's a lot of things going on. I would caution folks, though. I'm worried about our Christians that are in this country that obviously are going to be, I'm afraid there could be some beheadings and things like that. We're not really sure. There's unconfirmed reports of things like that going on right now. So there's a lot of going on. There's a lot of players that are involved. I don't think we're ever going to figure this thing out for a little while anyway. I worry, too, because Joe Biden's already talking about rebuilding Syria, putting our billions of dollars over there. I'm more worried about rebuilding North Carolina and Upper East Tennessee and parts of Hawaii.
Let's talk about a minute, just for a moment, what you said, the devil we know versus the devil we don't know. This is not a new movie. I mean, in fact, this is a sequel that we've seen time and time again in the Middle East. I mean, isn't this what we had with Libya, with Gaddafi? I mean, he's out. I mean, he's a bad guy, but at least he was a manageable bad guy. I think that's the way we have seen Bashar al-Assad. Now, who's in control?
Well, like you said with Gaddafi, when Reagan sent a cruise missile into, I think, one of his girlfriend's tents, I believe he got the message, and you saw him back off of all of his shenanigans. And the trouble is right now we don't know who's in control, and that's a volatile situation. You've got some radical, as you can see, some radicals that are what we think is several radical factions have come together, and they are putting us in a very bad predicament. I feel like I worry about. Of course, you're always in the Middle East. Our thoughts are about what's going on with Israel right now, and with you just heard from the head man of Israel just before me saying that these could be some might be some good times, but he was very cautious. I thought he was very diplomatic and everything. I listen to what he says more than any world leader because he always, if you hear what he says, not just how he says it, but there's always some underlining meaning there, and I think he was just sort of in a wait-and-see pattern.
Yeah, and his words always have meaning because he puts them into action. Speaking of that, I want to play a clip of our president, Joe Biden, today, basically assuming, it sounds as if he's taking credit for what has happened with the fall of Bashar al-Assad. Let's play clip 4, please.
For years, the main backers of Assad have been Iran, Hezbollah, and Russia. But over the last week, their support collapsed, all 3 of them, because all 3 of them are far weaker today than they were when I took office.
Is that a coincidence?
I say that had very little to do with him, his involvement. Trump understood the economic power, the sledgehammer that is America. And this bunch, it's just kind of a random thing. It's just unlimited dollars to people that would be suspect, and then our friends do without, I feel like, in some instances. So there is no coincidence that those three are weakened. And then that I felt like they couldn't back him up anymore. They got their own problems in their own countries as well. So I think that's true. But to think that he had very much to do with it, to me, is almost laughable.
Congressman Bashar al-Assad, very favorable toward the Russians. Obviously, we talked about he has sought asylum there in Russia, friends with Putin. Russia had military bases that they were placing in Syria. It was becoming a strategic place for them, having a foothold in the Middle East. What does this mean now for Russia?
Well, I think it indicates that their power is what we've said many times. You know, their GDP somewhere between Canada and France. I just don't feel like they are or have been for quite some time the threat that the people over here that want to sell missiles and the industrial war complex. This is a Christian show, so I won't say what I generally call them, but we're clearly in play in all this, and I feel like we've. It just proves about Ukraine. They don't have the power over there, and we don't need to be in their business. Again, we are in people's business. We don't have any place to be in. And if we start talking about rebuilding Syria and groups like ISIS are in charge, I think we're clearly making a strategic error. I want to remind everybody, I have legislation dealing with that. We're sending millions of dollars every week to the Taliban. Your tax dollars are doing this. And it's not even a circuitous route. It's almost direct. And so this White House to me is out of control.
Well, we're funding our enemies.
Yeah, exactly. They'll hate us for free. We don't need to pay them anything. And again, we're going to be doing that very same thing. If you think we're going to rebuild Syria and then ISIS is going to be friends of this country, you are gravely mistaken.
Right.
The only thing they respect is the tip of the sword.
Yeah. None of our dollars need to be going there. I want to switch gears. Speaking of our military, congressional leaders over the weekend, after working to arrive at a deal on the National Defense Authorization Act, they have language, and it appears pretty good. A lot of the more controversial woke items have been removed. Your thoughts?
Well, as you know, I voted against that most times just because of those very things. If we get some indication that they are clearly out, that's something I could support. But if we're going to tie Donald Trump's hands with a bunch of garbage that demoralizes our military, when you have men in skirts that are actively recruiting or promoting our military, that tells me that we are out of touch with what's going on with mainstream America and red-blooded American boys and girls. And parents don't want to send their kids into a military that has those type of capabilities and leadership. And if we're using money, your tax dollars in the military for sex change operations and things like that, that needs to be exposed and it needs to be removed.
Yeah, I think that explains why the military is having difficulty meeting their recruiting numbers, is because people don't want to send their kids, and kids don't want to join. I mean, in something that has lost its mission and its focus. Now, as we have reviewed the language over the weekend, and I've been communicating with the speaker, the draft Our Daughter's language is not in there. It does appear that all the transgender funding is out as well, in terms of the funding the surgeries and for the children and the gender mutilation services that are being asked for. So it's better. We'll have to see. It's a pretty big bill, and it's going to take a little time to read through it.
It doesn't have, if it's not clean of that stuff 100%, I won't be voting for it. Because, we're doing that with the abortion and allowing them to, using your tax dollar, allowing people to travel to other states where abortion is legal. To me, it just goes around the original intent of states' rights and throwing out of Roe v. Wade.
Agreed. And there are many fronts that battle has to be fought on in the next, I hope, 100 days. We see some of those issues addressed, because if the persuasion is that the states the issue of protecting life is with the states, which I don't necessarily agree with that position. I believe all of us need to protect the unborn. But if it is, in fact, the right of the states to protect the unborn, we need to make sure we're not trampling on the right of the states.
And something you just said reminded me, I was at an event way out of my district in Nashville this weekend. I was asked to come speak to. It's packed, hundreds of people there. And I said, the victory lap is over. It's time to get to work. And people cheered, because I think they realize that, we've got our work cut out for us now.
Yes.
This Doge stuff is, everybody realizes that we got a few, foxes in the hen house that are going to boat us down the river. And you know it, and I know it, and we got a clean house.
Absolutely. Tim, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, brother. And the reason they're firing at y'all is because you're over the dadgum target. Keep it up, brother.
All right. Take care.
Let's save our country.
Amen.